Days passed, weeks perhaps. Boromir sang drinking songs in his mind, drifting in and out sleep, curled around his chain on the damp floor. He looked up as the lock of the cell door clunked, and the guards' keys tinkled on their iron ring before the bolts were thrown at the top and bottom. Boromir had grown used to the familiar series of sounds, the certainty of them. The door swung wide and the dim torchlight from without flooded the cell floor. He knelt and then pushed himself to his feet, hunched over the iron hoop, readying himself for the daily routine of winning his meal. The goblin shuffled towards him with the tin dish. Boromir swung his leg high and wide, kicking the goblin against the wall. He looped his foot through the goblin's large iron key ring and yanked it free of his belt. Boromir woke with a start, looked up as the lock of the cell door clunked. He was curled around his chain on the damp floor. The guard's keys tinkled before the bolts were thrown. The goblin shuffled towards him and dropped the tin dish on the floor in its usual spot before stepping back to watch the trial of Boromir. He wriggled towards the plate until the chain was taut, ignoring the goblin's sniggers. Boromir extended his foot, pointing at the plate with his tightened toes, then lowered his leg until he could feel the rim. He pressed down and inched the plate towards him. It was always a matter of putting just enough pressure on the rim to pull it across the floor. The dish started to tip up. Boromir's leg wobbled and the stew spilled over his foot and onto the floor. The goblin sniggered. Boromir curled up into a ball around his chain. He broke down in tears. The goblin sniggered out of the cell. Boromir looked up through blurry eyes as the door was locked. He sobbed again as he crawled as close to the dish as he could. He managed to pull it towards him before twisting round. When at last he could pick it up, he held it in both hands and lapped up the remains of the stew. He paused as he felt something hard beneath his tongue. Perhaps gristle. No, harder. Was it bone? He pressed his lips to the greasy dish and sucked the thing into his mouth. Raising his head, he worked it past his teeth and between his lips. He spat it out into his filthy palm. It was a small key. Afterwards, he waited until the guard returned for the plate, waited until it had left the cell, then lay on the damp stone floor. His eyes felt heavy, as they did after every meal, and he wondered if it was nighttime outside in the green, sweet-smelling world. He tried to stay awake. He should not have been so sleepy. The excitement of that extra ingredient had made his heart race. But now, after waiting, all he wanted to do was sleep. The dark of the cell was starting to recede into his own oblivion, and his head dropped to his shoulder. He woke to the sound of the door being unlocked and looked up blearily at the chink of dim light beneath the door. He listened for a while, but there was no sound of keys tinkling out in the passage, and no boots scuffing across the floor. He sat up and pushed his finger and thumb into the gap between his wrist and the iron cuff. He pulled the small key out and pushed it into the small lock of the cuff. It turned smoothly, and the cuff fell open. He quickly unlocked the other and quietly lowered the chain to the floor. For the first time in what seemed like a year, he could stand fully erect and walk more than 2 steps. His legs and back were stiff through indolence, and he rubbed his wrists as he stepped gingerly towards the door. He lifted the ring handle and twisted it. The door opened silently, as it always did, but he dared not open it wide. The light from the passage was almost warning him to take care. He eased the door open a few more inches before peeking round the edge and looking down the passage. All was silent. He was about to look the other way when a dark shape in the bottom of his vision caught his attention. He looked down. His clothes were piled neatly in the middle of the passage, his hose, tunic, surcoat, and cloak all folded neatly. On top were his belt and his brown leather braces, and to the side sat his boots. In front of all this, As though the whole thing were some display in one of the finer shops of Minas Tirith, were his knife and horn. From somewhere far off came a faint, yet somehow rowdy noise, what to the orc filth might have passed as singing. He quickly gathered up his things and padded back into the cell, eased the door to. As he dressed, he felt invigorated, as though he were heading into battle. As he pulled on the first of the braces, he realized that not all of his possessions had been returned to him. The small boot knife that Faramir had given to him was lost. He cringed at the thought of some orc scum using such a beautiful thing. As he pinned his cloak and sheathed his knife, he wondered how he might escape from Orthanc. At no time during his imprisonment, at least when he was awake, had any guards checked on him. Except for meal times, there had not been as much as a scuffle of footsteps in the passage outside the cell. But there was the all-pervading hint of orc filth that told him there were guards near but not close. He would have to be careful, he thought, as he stepped towards the door.
"Are you not wondering who freed you?
Said his mother.
Or why?"
Boromir ignored her and stepped out into the passage,